What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. So, one that I'm going to take credit for finding and suggesting right away that we wanted to go over, at least I wanted to go over it. He didn't know he wanted to go over.
I didn't know, dude. I didn't fucking know.
We're going to get to that. Was the newest album from White Ward, False Light. Now, this actually comes out on the 17th of June as far as physical media. This started streaming, I believe, today or yesterday. And I saw it, I wanted to go over it because I've heard a tremendous amount about this band. This comes out on Debomir Morty Productions. Band formed in 2012 in the Ukraine. Go Ukraine, fuck Putin. Let's get that out there now. This is their third full length overall. They do have a fair amount of EPs, splits, and demos. And, alright, going by the archives explanation, this is experimental / post-black metal. And that is accurate. That is definitely accurate.
Yes.
I would almost go as far as saying that this is maybe like maybe avant-garde or progressive.
Progressive black metal is what I said.
This was an absolutely insane listen. Now, I'd heard a lot of hype around this band. Unfortunately, I missed out on their last one, and I heard a lot of people talk about it.
I've never heard of these guys until today.
And, well, that was corrected with this one, and this is a head-spinning, dizzying listen that goes so many different directions, but still stays together as one all-encompassing listen and musical journey. This is flat out wild.
Yeah, there's no... Wow. Wow is the only thing I can say, and we'll definitely get into that. When I say prog, I mean, like, even that's not even fully encompassing what this is. The twists and turns that this record takes versus normal prog albums is not the same.
No.
Like, it's just, there's elements that you don't see coming, and they are the most brilliant fucking thing ever.
I didn't fully know what I was going into. Like, I believe I jammed one track off of this, and it was one of the shorter ones, and I was like, that's odd.
Right.
But hearing this as a whole, this is quite a remarkable album. Now, we kind of got a whole snippet of, like, kind of the different styles on here with the opening track, Leviathan, which is over 13 minutes long, and opens up with, you know, some ambience, some keys, and then just explodes into this big, massive, sort of epic but dark intro, and then kicks in a full gear.
Yeah, because in the beginning, you're not really sure what the noise is, but it's ambient and it's pretty, and you're like, all right, but when it does kick in, it's got two of my favorite things in the entire face of the planet, chug and dissonance.
He was a happy boy.
Good God, I was immediately happy. A great build. Reminded me kind of like Garea off the bat.
Actually, yeah. What I really noticed right away was song structure and how they build songs. Like, I definitely hear the post-metal sort of construction, like deconstructing and then reconstructing songs, but at the same time it's more of a progressive flair where they deconstruct one section and then build into a completely different next section and explore totally different dynamics altogether.
Right. And a completely different genre, and you don't hear what's happening in this album in other albums. You just don't. Dude, when it does come in, it comes in something you do not expect. It sounds to me like the soundtrack of L.A. Noire. Remember that game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Super sexy trumpet. Oh my God.
The horn section on here, which it's mostly saxophone, but there are trumpet solos on here. They add so much. They shift around the mood so well. The song Salt Paradise kind of has like a dreary Western vibe, like, you know, one fucking lone gunman strolling into town on a horse to the saloon, and everyone kind of pauses and looks at him. But then the saxophone comes in, and then it shifts to like noir, like sort of like it's a detective now.
Rain-soaked streets at nighttime with a flickering fluorescent light and steam coming out of the grates. And
trench coats, fedoras, cigarette hanging out of the lip, dames.
Actually, you ever heard Clutch's Our Lady of Electric Light? It's kind of got that vibe to it, but it's way more set in like a 30s and 40s gangster kind of thing.
So like crossing like musical genres and kind of film genres, because there's like a cinematic quality to a lot of these shifts. But like the whole sort of vibe when they're kind of shifting between heavy and this more soft sort of jazzy stuff. It's kind of like black metal meets Cult of Luna meets
Between the Buried and Me
and Louis Armstrong
and Dizzy Gillespie
and more confusing things in there too. It's just a head fuck of different things that come together really well because everything is paced very deliberately on here, and the songs sort of just unfold as like giant stories.
Very highly imaginative record. For being an hour and 6 minutes long, it didn't feel like that.
Yeah, I would say this is probably one of the wildest listens I've had just in terms of genre hopping, mood hopping, which, like, describing the mood of this album is difficult. Like, it's definitely dark. It's definitely somber, but it's sort of like an inviting darkness, like there's a story behind it. You want to know where the darkness is taking you, so you kind of get lost in this. And again, the pacing of this album has such dramatic peaks and valleys. Like, the dynamic shifts could not be any more, like, just jarring and abrupt, but how they're constructed, it lets the song flow really well.
Now, in terms of, like, genre hopping, as we've been saying, Cronus, it fades in out of a synthy part into, like, immediately, like, The Cure. And,
Sisters of Mercy.
Yeah, and there's even that English inflection in his voice, and it gets a little, like, Depeche Mode-y, and you're like, what the fuck? But then, metal kicks in the door, and it's blast beats, and it's chugs. It's a bit thrashy at times. That's a great example of dynamic shift, going from The Cure to Arsis in one foul swoop.
Yeah, there is like a little bit of like melodic death metal and like thrash metal, the riffs, but when it comes down to like most of the heavy sections, like it's definitely more black metal centric, as it should be, because this is described as black metal. But like there's a lot of like dissection level melodies, and that is something on here that I love. Like, no matter how heavy and like just jarring the shifts get, this always retained melody.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
It doesn't get like so avant-garde, like, you know, Imperial Triumphant might be like a pretty good comparison just in terms of like melding like weird jazz with black metal. But this is way more listenable.
Right, it doesn't go so left field that you're jamming it and you're like, what the fuck is happening? And being confused about it. Like this, you're like, what is happening? But man, it sounds so tasty.
It's still based on riffs and hooks. Like, there's a lot of like just gorgeous dissonant melodies all over the place. And the longer songs really explore as much as they possibly can. Like False Light, the title track, is almost 15 minutes long. And it is an absolute journey through all sorts of different genres. Like, you have like seedy sort of like jazzy lounge music.
Reminded me of that part in Anchorman where they go to the jazz bar and the bartender comes up and says,
"You play jazz
Ron
flute?
Burgundy, you play jazz flute for us." But it sounded like that kind of vibe and that kind of atmosphere. Like you could almost picture yourself sitting in the bar listening to just
maybe more dimly lit.
Yeah.
You know, the waitress has a cigarette hanging out of her mouth, and there's kind of a cloud of cigarette smoke throughout, and you can barely see the saxophone player because the one bulb on the stage is still working. Like, here's your drink, sweetie. But that sort of vibe, and then all of a sudden shifting into like flat out just giant sized black metal, but again driven by a lot of melody.
Now, I do want to talk about something too. The production on this record is everything that it needs to be for the music that's in this album.
All the different kinds of music.
It's rich and warm, but dark and ambient, but sultry and sexy. The drum work in this album is absolutely insane. This guy covers all sorts, like in False Light, he does like a snare march under that sax solo, blast beats, cymbal accents galore, and really brilliantly crafted accents and just little divots off of the song. Like, just, ooh.
There's great vocal dynamics on here too. Now, they have 3 different clean singers that came on as session workers on here, but they do a lot of cool stuff, like the way that they pivot between the screams and the growls, which I believe those are covered by the main members of the band, and the screams and growls just bounce off of each other really well. The low growls have more of like a death metal sort of roar to them, 100%. And the high screams are just vicious sounding. Like, there's like a feel of like desperation to like everything he shrieks out.
Like the Amenta.
Yeah.
There were a lot of moments where I thought about the Amenta, and then there are some times where his higher pitched screams, I think, sound a lot like Trevor. Again, another dynamic shift, another song that I really enjoyed. Echoes in Eternity. This is a good example, again, of the little interludes and the way they take care of those interludes. Like, it's never just a sample or noise. There's always some sort of groove or vibe to it. In this, it was lush 80s keys and a sexy sax and a stand-up bass. Dude, when that stand-up bass comes in, it is so warm and buttery. And then you get, like, lo-fi beats. Like, it reminded me of, like, DJ Shadow meets, like, Digital Planets. And we're talking about a fucking black metal record here.
Yeah, I mean, technically, if you're going to put it under one umbrella, it won't fit. But, yeah, it's a black metal album. Kinda, maybe. And to further kind of just make it more strange, the song Phoenix opens up with, like, John Carpenter / Goblin synths and a slow pulsating beat and this kind of rich analog, just moog sound. And the song then slowly builds into like heavier black metal stuff, and then you get this breakdown riff with a solid groove and a sax playing lead on top of that. And that's kind of an interesting thing, right? First off, the horn work is amazing.
It is. Here. It's top notch.
It almost outdoes the guitars in terms of lead work. Now, there's really solid guitar leads on here, but honestly, it's the sax that really supplies a lot of the killer lead melodies. And with the sax, there's like a different vibe, a different mood. Like, even despite the song behind it being richly just brutal and heavy, the sax kind of keeps it smooth and sultry.
Well, and I even think, as good as those guitar solos are, the sound of it reminds me of a guitar. It is a little bit more electronic. I don't know what filter they're using on it or, what effect. But the horns, I think definitely power over the guitars. And in this case, in what's happening in all these songs, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
At all.
I mean, they supply a lot of the mood. Like, it's again, like, this is like a very moody listen. Like, you are engaged in this on, I don't know, like some sort of like introspective level. Like, there's weird samples of, different speeches. We couldn't figure out who was doing them. Maybe Bertrand Russell.
Maybe Richard Dawkins. We're not 100%.
And then there's like, movie samples from like noir movies. Like, so you get to hear like, 1940s level spousal abuse in this sample. Yay.
Do the dishes. No.
I'll murder you.
You're sleeping in the shed.
We've come a long way. Kinda. But that adds to like the giant emotional roller coasters that these songs are. And I have to say, like, the transitions can come out of nowhere. The song Silence Circles starts off with these like sad single notes. It's very dreary. It's very sparse. Like, there's not much going on except for some ambient noise and these little droning notes. And
right. It's a little creepy.
It's a little creepy.
E.T., this is not the way home, bud.
But it just flat out just explodes out of nowhere, like literally a musical fucking jump scare into just flat out brutality. Like, dude, what the fuck? Like, it feels like some of these transitions come in on weird off beats occasionally, but I kind of like it. Like, that kind of gives it like this surprise. You have no idea what's going on. This is an unpredictable album, and you're like, yes, it is. So
much so that it was so immersive in the beginning that when it did come in, Nick literally jumped. I was looking down writing on the paper, and then like it came in, and I saw Nick just go. But that's how immersive it is, and that's how much it draws you in. The soundscape is such that you are literally sucked in.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, ha, fuckers, here you go.
And it's universal. It doesn't matter like what they're actually doing. Again, they craft melodies, they craft atmosphere, and the whole album is this giant journey. And at over an hour long, honestly, this was kind of an easy hour to go through. Yep. Because I was really drawn in by this.
Yep, because, I mean, I sat down to it initially, and I was like, an hour and 6 minutes. It's fucking 10:30. Like,
5 minutes in, he's like, right, dude, this is fucking sweet.
5 minutes in, I was like, this is the most brilliant thing I've ever heard.
And we literally both said, like, listen, if the whole album sucks after this album blew its load way too fucking early.
Way too soon, and it will go to a much lower rating.
Yeah, and, well, obviously it didn't, because we're still talking about tracks later on in the album. And while this sounds like so off the beaten path from anything black metal, trust me, This band will remind you that they are black metal, you know, within a few moments. Like, nah, I've had too much of this little jazzy break. Boom, black metal comes out, especially False Light. The title track just seems way more focused on black metal sections, and Jesus Christ, they're fucking huge. We were like literally kind of just talking at this point. It's like, dude, can you imagine the writing process on this? Like, yeah.
How? I mean, you know, the more that we talked about this and the more I started making, like, comparisons as to what this would be, I mean, it really came out like a Between the Buried and Me meets Voivod, but in the 40s in a jazz bar.
Yeah.
Like, how? And how do you do it so well? And your horn section, man.
Yeah. Horns in metal have become kind of a thing, but generally you only hear it on like maybe like a couple of tracks on an album, like, you know,
sparingly, you know,
sparingly.
Or, you know, somewhere in a bridge. Or...
This is the entire album. The entire album is loaded with cool horn sections and like ambient synths, but you also have a ton of just big riffy moments too. And this isn't afraid to get like downright like death metal and thrash metal chunky too.
And it does.
So this is kind of just an all-encompassing listen and very unassuming. Like, you look at the cover of this album.
Yeah, dude, it's a fucking shack in a field. Like,
it's a barn.
Okay.
Maybe at nighttime the monsters come out. I don't know. But during the day, it looks pretty unassuming. But I mean, maybe that's
there is something I like about their actual band logo. It's simple, but I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you look at the album cover and you're like, eh.
I kind of like that too. Like, you know, post-metal, you know, generally you think sort of minimalist artwork. You know, it's generally something simple. Like, you know, look at like, you know, Cult of Luna album covers and stuff. But the package within is just giant. Like, this is just fucking insanely huge.
Makes you wonder what is happening in that shack.
It's a whole other fucking portal to another universe.
Yeah.
I love this, in case you haven't figured that out yet. This has been one of the most interesting listens, and that isn't just interesting me trying not to say it's fucking brilliant, because I am saying it's brilliant. Like, this is engaging, and musicality, oh my god, like, this is some real next level shit, like, legit. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this 4.5 stars. This is teetering on the edge of 5. I'll be completely honest there. But I want to give myself more time with this because I want to go back to it. I really do. If you're a giant prog head or just like avant-garde music, or just you want to hear something sort of fresh and different in black metal or just in extreme metal in general, because this is fucking extreme. This is just such a wild, engaging listen. This is some of the best song composition I've heard for such wild, like, stuff they're pulling from. Like, this is just sort of nuts to describe. And I don't know. I think I'm about to become a single parent because this got my ear holes pregnant. And hopefully the band helps me take care of it. I mean, guys, come on. This is fucking brilliant. Go get it. And I'm going to have to go get the earlier stuff, too, just to see how it holds up to this.
Shit.
So yeah, amazing.
I think I'm gonna go 4 or 5 as well. And much like Nick, I am really teetering on the edge. But like he said too, I want to spend more time with this to be able to better properly digest it. You know, I'm gonna take a little wiggle room myself for a change. But holy, this is so wonderful. This was such a refreshing. I think refreshing is the word. Even though it was crazy and all over the map and full of twists and turns that I wasn't expecting, it is wonderfully refreshing because you just don't hear this. I don't know where else you're going to hear something quite like this. This is very unique. I didn't even star anything because I fell in love with every song on here in its own unique and individual way. Top-notch musicianship. It is a wonderful mental trip to take. So many elements. You know, if you can't tell, I love this record too. I feel like I'm gushing about this album. But, I mean, that's what you want. That's what you want when you write a fucking record. So, yeah, 4.5 for me. God in heaven, I'm going to go buy this. I'm going to go buy a shirt. You know. Yeah. Support the band. Holy crap. Good job.
Going to contact him about child support when that ear baby's born. It's yours! So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We're also on Patreon if you'd like to help us out there. There will be a link down below. We are doing an Ask Us Anything thing probably late June, early July. There's a post on there. If you are one of our patrons, go on there and ask some weird questions because we need some weird ones. There's too many normal questions on there.
People ask us, what's your favorite album? These two bands were in the thing, and these two bands... We could do that. We could do that all day, but this is where you get the chance to ask us real fucking questions.
Yeah, like real weird questions, too.
Nick,
don't hold back.
Are your pubes in the topiary shape of Cookie Monster?
We can't know that. Not yet.
Oh, no. Don't ask that. He just told you. But yeah.
I didn't die on blue yet.
Yep. That's where we have that. Also, thrallsofmetal.com. We have shirts for sale still. If you would like one of our super awesome fucking Mark Riddick shirts that we have, please hit us up on thrallsofmetal.com and we will get one shipped out to you. Last but not least, for just a couple more remaining days, we have submissions for the upcoming Denver Death Fest. September 30th, October 1st, and October 2nd in Denver, Colorado at the Roxy Theater. Thralls of Metal has been given the chance to partner up with Swinging News Productions to bring about the world's first ever Denver Death Fest. We are taking band submissions until the 15th of June, 2022, which by the time you see this video will be right around the fucking corner. If you want to get in on the start of something big and monumental, now is your fucking chance, because Thralls of Metal gets to pick the lineup.
So with that, as always, thank you guys for supporting us, commenting, all that stuff. We love the fucking shit out of you. And this has been an awesome fucking ride. I know I say all these platitudes every time, but I fucking mean them.
I do too. I think, MDF was kind of a big thing for me. Like, fucking thank you guys, dude. This is so much fun. I never thought this would go anywhere, dude. We're just two normal, goofy-ass dudes that happen to like metal. So thank you for, supporting.
If you want to see John half-hard and crying, walk up and say, hey, I love Thralls of Metal. He'll appreciate it. He's weeping right now.
Dude, what?
I mean, don't hug him or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it will go exactly
like, I like your channel. I gotta go.
I gotta go. You guys are. I don't want a picture. No, I don't want to remember this.
But no, seriously, we love you guys, and we will catch you later.